The floor is yours, Ernest.
All right, thank you. Well, what a wonderful conference so far, and thank you for opening the discussion on the future of education. So we don't have an easy task. We have half an hour to discuss the future of education, and so my job will be to try and narrow down the topic so we can get something that is really practical and has ideas for everybody. You already met Gabby, but we are also joined by Svenia, who's written a book on exploring the future of education. So that's one way to explore the topic. But she's also involved with a lot of education technology groups. So European EdTech Alliance, she's one of the co-founders. And she's also founded a Female EdTech Fellowship. So it'll be interesting to hear about some of that experience. And Inese, I'm really glad you're able to join as well. She's the Secretary General of the Association of Nordic Engineers and also a mindfulness coach and has been mentoring young and aspiring girls as well. So we have three wonderful leaders who are trying to support women in their careers through various coaching, mentorship, education activities. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be talking about a slightly more narrow topic than the vast future of education. We'll be talking in alignment with the topic of the conference. We'll be talking about how education of now and in the future can support empowerment of women and more women in the leadership roles. So I run an education business. About 50% of our team is female, and 50% of the leadership team is female, something that I'm really proud of, and I feel that contributes to better decision-making and better work and collaboration. Now, having said that, that's an exception, and many more companies don't have that luxury. And so it's something that is beneficial for the society, for the individuals, and for the organizations. So we'll be talking about what we need to do to get there, and Gabby already shared some of the wider insights. So I'm going to start with really general questions, Svenia and Inese, and then Gabby, your comments as well, which is, what do we feel are the main ways how education can support more women in leadership positions? What are the main gaps? What are the main challenges? And so yeah, would you be able to just share some of the diagnostic of the challenges that we see out there, and then we'll talk about solutions to those. Svenia.
Very good question, very important question. So I think, education, there are two types of education for me that can have a big impact. Of course, the education in the school, but also the education at home. And we don't talk enough about the education at home and the biases that parents might have when, supporting their children in their growing up. And I think, we don't raise girls and boys the same, and we have unconscious biases. And I think it starts with connecting with these biases and making sure that we recognize them, even if sometimes they're very unconscious, as parents, really trying to realize that they exist. And then obviously in the school system, trying to make sure that we orient girls and boys the same way towards the same jobs. And right now we see that in the tech world, for example, we have a vast majority of men versus women, which poses a real problem because the tech products that are built by men, by men's team, and oftentimes they're built also, most of the time, for women users. So there is an intrinsic bias, and there is an ethical problem as well, especially in education technology. It's my field, so technological products for learning. Most of the teams who build those products are men, and most of the users, teachers, 70% of teachers worldwide are women. So there is, a strong bias. So we really need to make sure that the career advices and how to choose their careers, and it starts very early, and going into tech, going into these male-driven careers, also, and that's where you come into play, that also many girls choose these careers. And I think that's a huge challenge, and we must tackle this challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, Ines, you represent a lot of engineers, traditionally an industry associated with MENT, so can you share your perspectives on that?
But first, I just would like to say that it's so great that education is under the spotlight, because I think we don't talk a lot about education and which role it actually plays for the future. So, and I'm also very thankful for you to mention AI and ethics, because this is the subject that we work enormously on, because we need this diversity and we need this female perspective when we develop the new technology, and this is why we need to attract more women choosing the STEM education. And here we actually come to the first point, which is the biggest challenge, is lack of interest in STEM education and the stereotypes, because a lot of the research actually shows today that the interest that is cultivated in the choosing future education is happening at early age in primary education. So we need to look at it, what happens there. And we actually need to educate the educators, because the problem is they are fast holding the stereotypes. The second problem is today many women here on the stage said that we have to go on front, we have to believe in ourselves, we are strong and we are beautiful and brilliant. But the problem is that every little girl and little woman sit there, and even myself performing now, I'm doubting about, am I good enough? Am I self-confident? So the self-confidence is an issue. And what happens? Do we have self-confidence courses in our education programs? I didn't find any. It's always about, you have to find the way through your personal development. And the third challenge is actually the equal opportunities. Sam already mentioned today the huge gap in the salary. We actually see in the Nordic level today that there is unexplainable 4% gap of the salary. Then we have another issue, is the parental leave. Even in the perfect Nordic region, only 10 or 15% of men are taking the parental leave. What happens? Why don't we educate actually men and also women to take an equal sides and equal parts of this? And then there is another last point, is the career progression. We also heard today earlier on that COVID actually has a bad impact on this, because women prefer to stay and work from home, and then they become invisible. And this is a huge problem. We need to educate women and make awareness campaign about go back to work, show yourself, because when they talk about bonus and promotion, you get forgotten.
Thank you. Gabby, you spoke about broad aspects of education. Now, what would you like to?
Yeah, I'm with Svenia here. I think this bias and the mental models that we all have in our heads are totally in the way, and we could do a much better job when raising the kids to make sure it doesn't even happen. And we all have to challenge our beliefs to what leadership looks like. Ask yourself. If you see it, you can do it. Yet a lot of the hiring managers, a lot of the HR organizations, they basically take a look at who has the leadership positions, and they extrapolate those people, those type people have the potential. So whilst women oftentimes get better results and they really get rated, better ratings, that's how they compete on their results, and they have delivered. Men, most likely, and that's research, that's not my opinion, they ride on their potential and the potential that others see in them because they've seen it before. They just haven't seen it in as many women before. And so a lot of these are mental pictures we have in our heads. And we need to start that from very early on. In many, many different ways and functions. It's also the way the media portrays, the books, the entertainment, it's everything. If we did a different job there, we would have a lot more girls interested in science and how to get stuff done and how to build that car and do whatever. It's our own fault.
Yeah, it's a question of role model as well.
Absolutely.
Like, if you don't have a role model to look out for, you're less likely to believe that you're capable, of reaching that status. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ines, you've been working as a role model, and you told me about this program that exists out there for young aspiring girls. Can you tell a little bit more about that, how that's worked in a school setting in Denmark?
There's actually two different things. One is the project that is called the Engineer the Future. So they work with the schools. They have a special program that is called Book the Expert. So it means that mathematics teachers, during the mathematics lessons at school, they can book an expert who is already engineer in the profession, or an IT specialist that can come to the school and tell about their profession, what they do, and what is actually interesting, and how they save the world. Actually, this is the whole slogan about the project. Be together with us to save the world. So this is the one. And also what is great with this project is that they, in dialogue with the Minister of Education in Denmark, they brought the engineering curriculum in the education program. So kids at school, they can actually learn about engineering already in the curriculum. And the second is the project that is called High Five Girls, and I think it's something already similar that I heard that also in Riga Tech Girls exist, and you mentioned that the hackathons, coding, it's the same principle. It is based on the network of role models, the young engineering students, female, who come and teach teenage girls about different ways of actually making circular economy or energy resources. And then the girls, they actually do it in a fun way, because the fun, it's actually also a very important component, because it's in a fun way that you learn things and you get this interest. And then in the same time, we'll also help role models to be equipped to do that.
Thank you. And it was interesting hearing everybody's summaries. I didn't hear much of we need to upskill girls in finance or in coding, etc. There's a lot about biases, there's a lot about mindsets, about interest. So how much is there a hard skill gap versus is this really about attitudes primarily?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about the attitude and the soft skills and the growth mindset. I don't know if you know the growth mindset. It's a whole topic that has been developed by a researcher in the US called Carol Dweck, a researcher in psychology, who shows that the growth mindset is when you believe in yourself, you have confidence, and you know that you're capable of becoming whoever you want to become. And through that positive mindset of, okay, working hard to getting where you want to go. And she shows that people either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, or a mix of both, actually. It's not black or white. It's almost all the time gray. But yeah, and I think that growth mindset is not taught in schools, and we should have it taught in schools, specifically for girls, and helping them to grow this mindset and really having, confidence in that, in the fact that they can achieve everything that they want to achieve, and become whoever they want to become. Everything is possible if you put hard work. And Carol Dweck shows that, with a growth mindset, you achieve way better results also in schools. And she wrote a book called Mindset. I strongly recommend it. And in this book, there are some tips and tricks for parents, for teachers, to help kids grow that mindset. So yeah, I think it's absolutely key.
I would, again, totally agree. I know normally we should disagree on the panel to make it more interesting. But I think those are the important pieces. These other skills, they are very short-lived, and a lot of them get lost to automation, as we see every day. But it's important to see the opportunity, to make the connections, to reach out, to get the stuff done, to collaborate, to bring it together. It's these type of things that they are not soft at all. Collaboration is one of the hardest things to do, especially it usually talks about organizations that are not alike, people are not necessarily alike. To then get together and get something done is very, very difficult. And that's the type of stuff that we need to teach. And then we know who to pull in to solve whatever difficult question it is. It's the how to get stuff done. And that is absolutely fundamental, and it doesn't get taught.
Can I just add very shortly? And I think very important, what we actually talk also to the girls and to the women is actually the ability to learn to fail. Because we quite often teach our women to be perfect. But actually, we need to create safe spaces, and somebody already mentioned this notion, safe spaces where they can learn to fail. Because from our experience and history showed that some big invention came from the accident.
Thank you. Now, Gabby, if I can push you with an interesting question that's in my mind. Now, you've been with the University of the People, which is a major online university educating people across the world with some really interesting programs for women. Now, if a lot of it is about the mindsets, about the biases, about the attitudes, can online solve that? We're talking about the future of digital, but isn't that an in-person thing?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it would be very difficult to leave that to an online university to solve these type of problems. What I do say, however, is that in this online environment where you can get either a business degree or a computer science degree, a lot of it is the collaboration between the peers, and the peers are also judging each other. So oftentimes it's not the professor that does the grading, they grade each other, and in the end the professor takes a look at whether it all makes sense and goes in the right type of direction. And so people from different parts of the planet, timing allowing, get together, work on projects together, solve problems together. So it goes a little bit in the right direction, but it's certainly not going to solve the problems that we've issued before.
Thank you. And you've all been involved in mentorship of some sort. And Svenia, you've been involved with the Female EdTech Fellowship. Can you just share a little bit about what are some of the things you've been working on with women in that program, and what have been the successes that you've seen?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, a lot of men build products for educational purposes, and there are very few women building education technology products. And so, yeah, my role and my passion is to help these women, these founders, these entrepreneurs, grow and connect with each other. So, yeah, this fellowship is a 6-month fellowship for founders, female founders, building educational products, startups, and yeah, what I see is that they come together, as you say, it's a safe space. There are like 15 per cohort. They help each other. They share, their challenges, their failures, and they learn from each other. And I think it's really important to create these safe spaces and this kind of a sisterhood. And I really strongly believe that they get a lot from that safe space, because they don't really dare talk about their failures outside of this circle. So yeah, really useful sometimes to create women-only circles. Strongly believe in that. Obviously, I also really think it's important to include men as well. I think it's absolutely key, and we all believe in diversity, and they also have an added value to bring. But sometimes it's great to create that safe space, women only. That's what I discovered during that experience.
Thank you. We have about 7 minutes left, and what I wanted to do is switch to solutioning, and there's some really great examples from everybody. But within the room, we have people, men and women, who are really ambitious to solve some of these challenges, and they represent organizations of all kinds of various sizes, from technology startups to very large organizations in the region. And if everybody here is able to take some action and make sure their organization contributes in a meaningful way, then we can accelerate change rapidly. So knowing that you work with Gabby, you've worked with some of the largest technology companies in the world. So you work with a lot of startups. Inese, you work with engineers throughout the various kinds of organizations. I'd like each of you to comment on what would be some of your asks to the organizations for us to see meaningful push forwards that these people here in this room can take back to their organizations and promote to make sure we make great progress in that.
So overall in education, what I've seen along the lines is that a lot of great companies, big companies, not great, big companies, have really invested a tremendous amount of money in coming up with courses, sometimes in cooperation with MOOCs, sometimes they do it themselves, that is excellent and would serve a lot bigger population than just their own employees. And I think there has to be some kind of a democratization of that type of knowledge, because it's been really tailored towards certain needs. We now can make these AI-based assessments as to how good I am in certain spaces and what lack is there, and there will be offerings to help me address that. And rather for everybody in the world to go out and try to figure out what am I going to do about it, I think working with these companies and making some of this information publicly available, finding a space how to do that would be really, really useful, because there's some great stuff out there and very easy to find and search and find.
Yeah, I would say, shed light upon, female leaders or operators, and I really strongly believe in that, role model thing. And so I think every organization should shed light upon the women in their organization that is making the success of these organizations at every level, But I really think we need to showcase all of these women doing amazing things inside our organizations, and make them visible, because they themselves will not easily put themselves out there. It's super hard. Like when I talk with my female founders, they said, I don't really dare posting on LinkedIn about, my recent success. They have the imposter syndrome. So if they are not going to do it, we should do it for them, right? We should put them in the light. And I think that's absolutely key. Everyone can do that. LinkedIn is a great way, for example, to do that. But yeah, we really need to make them more visible and shed light upon them.
I think for the organization, I think this principle, think manager, think male, is a kind of dinosaur that's about to disappear, and we really need to understand it and bring it to our organizations. Another thing is also, if we want to have a gender equality at our labor market, we really need to look at the gender equality at home. And very interesting example exists in Iceland. They made an awareness campaign about the third shift, because everything we women do at home is a third shift. It's a mental burden. And then they developed an app who actually helps the families to look how the actually home chores and mental burden is distributed at home. So I think it's a kind of thing that everybody could be inspired. And then on the individual level, I think we women should also look sometimes in ourselves. It's not only outside. It's not everybody else's fault, but it's also us. So we need to start really build the stamina and communicate it in a more clear way.
It feels to me that there's a lot about, as a man in our organization like this, there's a lot about building allies and supporting each other, because playing into the biases that you spoke about early on, I've read that. So a woman who is active in a meeting will be perceived as hysterical, where a man will be perceived as passionate. There is somebody who is proud about their achievements. There'll frequently be the association somebody is political if they're female, but ambitious if they're men. So it feels to me that there's a lot about us highlighting the good examples in our organization and really encouraging people to push forward and to demonstrate some of the great successes that we have. For the leaders here, the majority of them are female. How an event like this will obviously start things, and it's a good initial opportunity to exchange these ideas, etc. But there's a lot about consolidating that and talking, exchanging the experiences that we have. That's all we have time for on this panel. We're not going to open a new topic now. There's obviously so much more to discuss. But please join me in thanking Svenia, Gabi, and Inese for some of these exciting thoughts.
Thanks. Thanks for very nice.
Thank you so much.